Today we're breaking down Shedeur Sanders. Once upon a time, the QB1 of the 2025 draft. And that was like a month or two ago. We're not talking preseason. We're talking after all the games have been played. NFL playoffs are going on. Titans and Browns fans are arguing over which one gets Shedeur. Now, a few days after the combine, that conversation is dead. Why? Well, people like Josina Anderson and Bucky Brooks are suggesting that maybe it's something more nefarious and teams have certain hangups, shall we call them, about confident young quarterbacks. Others are suggesting it's lying season, and teams like the Raiders want Shedeur to fall to them, so they're going to lie and say he's not that good, he's got attitude problems, we don't trust him, so that the Browns won't take him at 2, he slips to 6, the Raiders get him, they have their franchise quarterback. Personally, I think people are just watching him play football for the first time. During the playoffs, coaches don't have time to be watching college players. If they're good coaches, they're in the playoffs. And if they're not so good coaches, or unlucky coaches, I guess, they're doing exit interviews, they're going on vacation, they're seeing their family for the first time. There's plenty of time to get around to watching football later, when there's more information available. Now February's over, and I think basically since the Super Bowl, there's been a steady decline in where Shedeur is expected to be drafted. Personally, I was coming into Shedeur expecting to see a good, not great prospect, just from what I'd read online, who might not be a great franchise quarterback, but probably will be enough, like Andy Dalton caliber. Within 3 games in early January, I realized, oh, this is a bad quarterback. There's nothing that Shedeur does well. It's not that he has any one particular weakness. Like, it's not like he's Mac Jones and you're like, oh, he can't move and he has a weak arm. It's more just that there's not a single part of the game that Shedeur Sanders is actively good at. He doesn't have a big arm. He's not that accurate. I know. He set a bunch of accuracy records, completion percentage records, different than accuracy. And that was accomplished largely through screens, drags, and shovel passes. You can do that. It's a Pat Shurmur offense. It's known for these things. I digress. Average arm, not very accurate, not an athlete, not a big guy, 6 foot, 190 pounds. Not really a playmaker, not quite a genius. Not dumb, but not a genius. And if you're not average or better in any of the traits, how are you going to be good? Don't take my word for it, though. I'm going to break down every trait. I'm going to show you film from my film study that kind of exemplifies how I got here. Without further ado, let's break down Shedeur Sanders. The first thing we're going to talk about is range and power. This is just typical arm strength, how far down the field you can throw the football. I give Shedeur a B-, but I probably could have given it a C+. It's in that Mac Jones tier where it's not going to completely sabotage a quarterback's ability to play the game and execute the playbook, but there are certain things he'd rather not do, like throw deep. He's terrible at it. He's really terrible at it. You could see on that first play that when he's throwing back foot and he's going across the field, he can still muster the ball about 40 yards. But even here, perfect drop back, clean pocket, stepping into the throw. It looks exactly like what you want it to look like. And he only gets the ball 40 yards down the field. And it's dramatically underthrown, right? And I don't want to hear any like, oh, well, he did that so that he could ensure a completion. If he puts this ball 5 to 10 yards further downfield, it's a touchdown. Instead, it's a jump ball that isn't really catchable. This is not on purpose. This is a matter of him not having the arm to go further down the field. And I know it's from the far hash, but we're talking about being a franchise quarterback. Remember, a B is average for an NFL starter. And I think that Shedeur is below that threshold. Right? And I got a lot of clips here. Basically, Shedeur does not have a strong arm. Whether it's from a clean pocket or it's from running around, he doesn't really have the ability to stretch the field. And, a lot of these balls, like here, you're like, oh, well, he threw the ball 30 yards. And it's like, well, one, the play called for a 40 to 50-yard throw. So either he's remarkably late, which I doubt, or he just doesn't have the arm to make the throw that the play calls for. And the third thing is, look how long that ball hung in the air. It gave the corner plenty of time. Look how underthrown it was. It gave the corner plenty of time to get back in the play and break the ball up. So throwing the ball far, not Shedeur's game. The problem for me is that throwing the ball with any kind of speed, not Shedeur's game. I give him a C plus on zip and velocity. That's his ability to drive the ball, to thread tight windows, throw the ball with speed on shorter routes. And this is more where arm strength comes into play, I believe. Arm strength isn't so much about whether or not you can throw the ball deep. It's about whether or not you can fit the ball in certain holes and attack the middle of the field. And I don't think that Shedeur can. That being said, because his arm is weak, his touch is beautiful. So this is the best example of Shedeur exhibiting good drive. You see how he puts his entire body into it? See how he extends his release a little bit? He kind of rocks his whole body back and forth, and that's when he gets the good velocity on the ball. But keep in mind, this ball's still only traveling about 20 yards, about 15 yards past the line of scrimmage. This is a lot of movement and a lot of windup necessary for a pretty normal throw that NFL quarterbacks are expected to make all the time. This is a much better example of why I think Shedeur Sanders' velocity is a problem. Right? It's just going to be a curl to the bottom of the screen. And Shedeur is on time. He's not staring it down. I mean, he kind of is, but that's not the problem. The corner stays honest. The reason that this throw is picked off and returned for a touchdown is because even though Shedeur is on time, A, his release takes a long time because when he's trying to throw with velocity, his release becomes much slower. And B, that ball hangs in the air for what feels like a lifetime. So it's not that he's telegraphing balls, and it's not that he's late on his read. It's just that the ball is in the air forever, right? This is the kind of play that a Josh Allen gets away with because he's got incredible, ungodly zip on the ball. But not for Shedeur. The ball is very, I don't want to say underthrown. It's just not fast enough. And it limits what you can even do in the quick game because in the quick game, things move faster. Here's another one. You get a receiver wide open 15 yards down the field, right? I know it looks like there's a lot of space because we're zoomed out on the all-22, but you can see that ref on the left, that is the line of scrimmage, and the 50-yard line is the sticks. So this is a 13-yard downfield throw. And look at how Shedeur hangs the ball up there and turns it into a jump ball like a Hail Mary. It's just not good enough. And yeah, he's running around while he does it, but that pocket is clean. He's running into pressure. There's no reason for him to be doing this. So, bad pocket presence, bad arm talent, making easy plays hard. That's not a franchise quarterback. And frankly, it's not even a really good facilitator. As for touch, Sanders is actually pretty good. And it's because he's become better at anticipating, throwing the ball softly, and landing very slow moving floaters where they need to go due to his lack of arm strength, right? It's easier to catch a softly thrown ball, and he's really good at that. Now, release, I give a B minus, and it's a little fraught. So we already established that Shedeur Sanders, when he's trying to throw the ball hard, has a longer release. And that's the case with everybody, but because his arm is not strong, he needs that longer wind-up drive release more often than most. The other problem is he has the ability to throw with a very quick release. But here's what happens when he uses his quick release, right? He's trying to throw hard with a quick release and the ball goes wild. He can't control it when he's trying to generate velocity via his quick release. Ball's behind, ball's high, scatter shot, and it's still not getting thrown that hard. So it's a lot of cost for very little payoff. You will notice, though, that his mechanics are clean. His footwork, very nice, very crisp. He's polished. He's been coached by the best probably for a decade now, right? He's Deion Sanders' kid. From the time he was 12 or 13 and decided he was a quarterback, Dion's probably been getting him NFL caliber quarterback coaching. So you can see his drop back, nice. His arm comes out pretty clean. It gets a little bit far outside of him. I don't love that, but I'm not nitpicking. And I don't care if a quarterback throws the ball with his tongue, if it's consistently accurate and it gets consistent velocity. Don't mind. You can see he has to put his whole body into it, right? He's torquing his whole torso into this 8-yard throw. The quick release with the higher velocity is constantly inaccurate, and that leads him to have to use that longer release we saw earlier. Not great. So the movement is actually perfect. If it was just how does his body look when he is releasing the football and how quickly can he get it out, A plus. The problem is when he utilizes that A plus form, the actual ball comes out poorly. It comes out inaccurately, and it comes out not hard enough. And that's a problem. Next up, we're going to talk about accuracy and precision. And I know those kind of sound like the same thing, but they're a little different. Accuracy is how often you can hit that bullseye, right? Your ball placement, how perfect can it be? Whereas precision, how consistent it can be, the grouping, if you will. And I don't use these terms really technically just to be sure. I use them because I'm trying to explain two different things, and it just so happens there are words that we're all kind of familiar with that fit them perfectly. As far as accuracy goes, I don't think Shedeur Sanders is accurate at all. His ball placement is frankly not good. His precision also not good, but better. A C is substandard. It is backup quality. It is not startable. And C plus is on the verge. What I mean by that is Shedeur Sanders almost never throws a perfectly placed ball. Shedeur Sanders does, however, relatively frequently, you know, I guess compared to his accuracy, throw a catchable ball. Now, I've graded hundreds of snaps of Shedeur Sanders. And this chart that I'm putting up right now shows you the results. I can't show you every pass because that would just be like a 3-hour long video. Instead, I'm going to cut up the things that I think matter the most. Everybody loves the long ball, especially chicks. They dig it. Shedeur Sanders has the worst deep ball I think I've ever graded. Now, to be fair, I only really grade first and maybe second round hyped prospects, and I've only been particularly grading deep balls, like keeping track of every single throw for a few years now. This was bad. This is every deep ball I saw Shedeur Sanders throw before I gave up on him. And I'm going to start with the good ones. And the best ones are kind of just jump balls. Like he literally never leads a receiver. It's never perfect. It's never, a receiver running under it, catching it, getting into the end zone. It's these jump balls that more often than not, Travis Hunter is bailing him out on because Travis Hunter has sick ball skills. It's partially because he doesn't have the arm strength to do this consistently. It's partially because he's reckless and he knows, like, fuck it, Travis Hunter is down there somewhere, and he'll do some Madden 13 level shit like this where he just gets hit and bounces up into the air and catches the ball anyway. But, like, look at him getting his receivers exploded. All these balls are underthrown, like, consistently. Even the ones that are caught, like, I'm sorry. The line of scrimmage is the 35. You should be able to throw a curl to at least the 10-yard line if you're an NFL starting quarterback. Shedeur Sanders is 23. He's in the prime of his life. That arm is not getting a lot stronger. From the 40-yard line, he throws the ball, and it doesn't even make it to the end zone. And now the receiver is so open it doesn't matter, but, like, that's kind of pathetic. The deep ball accuracy is terrible. It mostly stems from the complete and utter lack of range. But last year, famously, I said Caleb Williams, wow, 20% accuracy on his deep ball. This is unbelievably bad. And sure enough, in his rookie year, Caleb Williams was only accurate on about 18% of his deep throws, which is terrible, amongst the very worst in the league. Shedeur Sanders set the standard anew with a 9% accuracy rate on deep balls. These are all the bad ones now. Constantly underthrown, no placement. Hey, he's got a nice spiral, but the ball never goes where it needs to go, largely because it never gets deep enough, and when it does get deep enough, it goes wild because he's cutting or slicing while he overthrows the football. I mean, I've got too many of these for me to keep talking. I don't know what else you want me to say other than these are all bad throws. And a lot of them are getting caught because he does have Travis Hunter, and Travis Hunter is a spectacular ball winner, right? Like his ability to play the ball in the air is awesome, especially for his size. But like for the first time in this entire clip, Shedeur just overthrew a receiver after an entire reel of underthrowing the receiver. And there's another underthrow. And yes, it's DPI, but it's still underthrown. There is a way to win in the NFL without being a great deep ball artist, but you can scratch throwing the long ball off of the list of things Shedeur does well. In fact, you can say that if you have Shedeur Sanders as your quarterback, you kind of have to take the long ball off the table and just not utilize that part of the game. Because the only ones he's completed in this game are ones where Travis Hunter is just a superior human being to the people he's playing against, or the receiver is so wide open that he can stop, wave his hand, call a fair catch, and field the punt for 500 points to become the new thrower. And like, look, I know that he didn't really have any big X receivers at Colorado, right? Like Travis Hunter was his jump ball guy at just 6 feet tall. But I don't think this is a problem that really gets solved by having twin towers like T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. As for Sanders' accuracy to the intermediate level and short level, okay, everybody's short accuracy is pretty good, right? Like I save C's and D's on the short accuracy for guys like Anthony Richardson, who are really just runners who occasionally can throw the ball a little bit, but like everybody's accurate on screens, drags, swing routes, things like that. And I'm not going to show you a cut up of those because nobody wants to watch that. The intermediate area is, I think, where Shedeur's arm strength really hinders him the most because he can't drive the ball into tight windows. And you can't anticipate that much, right? Like, this is the best it gets, and it's just RPO slants. That's a really good throw. That's really good intermediate accuracy. And you can see from a clean pocket when he steps into it perfectly and his receiver's pretty open, he can hit it sometimes, just not often enough. The placement's never great. And too often it's erratic. It's in order to be a good NFL quarterback that lacks arm strength like a Joe Burrow, you can't miss these easy throws, and you certainly have to be accurate on the second level, because when you're inaccurate on the second level and the ball doesn't come out fast enough, that's how you get interceptions like crazy. So if you can't throw deep and he's not really good at attacking the middle or the middle level of the field, how do you utilize Shedeur Sanders in a way that makes him effective and efficient? So through 6 games, I'm at 17% on deep throws, 4 of 23. He was at 9% when I gave up on him after watching the BYU game. Thank God for that Cincinnati 2 out of 5 when he hit half the deep balls I saw him hit. Definitely his best game. But despite the fact that Shedeur Sanders throws an ungodly amount of short passes, note that 44.2% of Shedeur's passes are routine passes. That is about 5% higher than the average in the 2025 draft class, right? It means he's throwing lots of short stuff, dinks and dunks. And I don't even count all those little pop passes and shovel passes that Colorado loves to run to spam his completion percentage up. Even with all those short throws, he's still only accurate on 71.4% of his aimed passes. That doesn't count throwaways. Average is 73. That's really bad. Like, if you are only average in terms of accuracy, despite throwing lots of easy passes, you're not leaving me any upside. There's really no reason for me to get excited about you. There's really nothing I can do because almost anybody can hit these easy passes, and you aren't even hitting them as often as other people are. Furthermore, he's not protecting the ball. If he was throwing short passes and he wasn't that accurate, but he made really good decisions and kept the ball away from defenders because he was so pinpoint accurate and smart, that'd be one thing. But he's throwing interceptions at the average rate of his draft class. He's not protecting the ball better than guys like Quinn Ewers or Jackson Dart or Tyler Shuck. And if they have the arm talent and the mobility, why wouldn't I give them a look if they're going to protect the ball just as poorly? Or well, because I mean, average is average. Note that Shedeur does not have a single elite throw. There is not a single perfectly placed ball over 25 yards in all of his tape. That's bad. There also wasn't a catchable ball thrown more than 55 yards, right? Like if you throw a 60-yard ball and it's a little underthrown, but it's caught, that's elite because it's tough to throw the ball 55 yards past the line of scrimmage accurately. Shedeur can't even approach that. He doesn't have that in him. So I don't see an accurate quarterback. I don't know how you sell yourself on a guy who doesn't have a strong arm, doesn't have an average arm, and doesn't have good accuracy. Maybe if he ran like a Jalen Milroe or a Lamar Jackson, that would be acceptable. But even still, Lamar didn't become a great quarterback or even a good quarterback until he developed his passing game and became a real threat, especially throwing down the field. That's not in Shedeur's bag. It's not in his body, right? It's like a few years ago, Jake Haener came out. Jake Haener was so smart. He wanted it so bad. He was smart. He had great mechanics. He knew what he was supposed to do. But he was small, and he had a weak arm, and he wasn't fast. Sorry, dude. I understand. It sucks. You can't do it. You're going to be a great coach one day. I guarantee it. But that's where we're at with Shedeur. The arm talent is not there in terms of accuracy or power. The next thing we're going to talk about is the most in-depth part because it's the hardest to just demonstrate and the most important. It's the mental aspects of the game. Processing. I break processing into two different categories. One is pre-snap, identifying and reading defenses, altering your plays to fit them, whether that's setting protections, calling out hots, checking to audibles, what have you. There's a lot of chess that goes on before the snap even occurs. And in that regard, Shedeur is pretty good. And then there's the post-snap processing. How well you react once the ball is snapped. Oh no, it looked like they were going to be in cover two. They're rotating out of it into cover one man. How do I handle it? What's my next read? Okay, read one got covered. They double the guy. Where's read two? Where's read three? How do I progress through in a pure progression play? How do I handle getting unexpected pressure and having to make something happen on the fly? Chess and speed chess. That's processing. I think Shedeur Sanders is good at the pre-snap processing. I think he's I think he's passable. I think he's passable at post-snap processing. When it comes to pre-snap processing, Shedeur is very adept at finding his first read. I can't show you a ton of that. Some of the quick game stuff I showed you earlier, all quick game, is a product of having good pre-snap reads. The post-snap is what really worries me. On this play, Shedeur rolls out, and here he's got his running back in the flat, throw the football. Nothing else is coming out that you can hit, right? Because that receiver open at the middle of the field at the 30-yard line, Shedeur can't throw the ball 25 yards that accurately. It's out of his range. So to scramble back and then throw across the body deep like this, it makes no sense, right? This is a little bit playmaking, so I'm dipping into both categories here. But even still, if you're going to be rolling left, you got the curl, right? At that 25-yard line. That's open for a first down at the sticks. Throw that. And I know it's hard because you're rolling left, but you decided to roll left. Instead, he tries to throw a streak that he doesn't have the arm to throw from a standstill. And it's dramatically underthrown, as usual. Here, wide open receivers on third down at the sticks. Look at all these guys down here at the bottom of your screen on curls. Look at Travis Hunter, wide open at the bottom of the screen, bottom right. I can't illustrate because I'm recording on different software this time, but look at 12 in the bottom right corner. Could not be more open. Shedeur does not see him. Travis Hunter is waving. Please, dude, please. So you've got two wide open receivers at the sticks. You've got a star Heisman Trophy winner receiver wide open, uncovered 25 yards down the field. You've got a pretty clean pocket. Shedeur is running around for no reason here. And he waits so long. He's so incredibly late that even though he completes a ball, it doesn't matter. Right? Right here, clean pocket, boom, boom. Right here, he should be saying, time to get the ball out to my curls. Or he could be looking at Travis Hunter, who's wide open. Instead, he's looking at the middle of the field, and I have no idea why, because he's not holding any receivers or any defensive backs off of any receivers. If there was somebody in the middle of the field or some kind of scissor concept, I'd understand looking off the linebacker. But he's looking at nothing. He's looking at the rush, right? His head has come down because he's panicked. He doesn't like that there are 3 or 4 pass rushers. But the pocket is clean. This is what he wants. Step up and gun that ball to number 1 on the outside for a first down. Or loft an arm punt to Travis Hunter at the 30-yard line. I mean, he's at the 35. So put it at the 20-yard line to be safe, right? You can throw the ball 40 yards past your launch point, 30 yards downfield. No. He throws the ball to the third best option. The ball doesn't have enough velocity to make up for the fact that he's late on the throw. And he missed 2 wide open receivers who would have had much better outcomes. And now it's 4th down and short because he made bad mistakes and probably took a touchdown off the board. Also, he has a bad habit of staring down his receivers. He decides who he's throwing to pre-snap, and he just throws. And maybe that's a Travis Hunter problem, like, oh, I've got this guy who we're actively trying to spam and get the Heisman, and he's really good, and he's way more athletic than most of the people we play against. But still, there's no excuse for throwing this ball directly at a defender. And it happens way too much. To be as conservative as he is and throw as many interceptable balls as he does is kind of not excusable. When it comes to pocket presence, it's even worse, right? This is how well he manages the pocket, and he doesn't. Okay, look. You got motion, 1-2. There's the top of your drop. Ball needs to be coming out. You've got the little slant route or out route to your slot receiver. Instead, he holds onto the ball. And that's not the worst thing. This is probably still a no-fault sack, right? Yeah, you're late, but it was a quick pressure. Give him the benefit of the doubt. You get sacked, it's going to be 4th and goal from the 11 or 12-yard line. Easy field goal. You're staying in the game. And then he does dumb shit like this. And he does this kind of dumb shit all the time. And suddenly, instead of a 30-yard field goal, you're looking at a 50-yard field goal because Shedeur panicked and thought he was some kind of athlete he's not. Here's another one. First of all, this is a bad pre-snap read. You should know you have a blitz. You should slide the protection to your left instead of to your right. You see how all these guys are bunched up, right? You see how you have your center, your right tackle, and your right guard all blocking one defensive lineman, number 94? That's because Shedeur didn't shift the protection pre-snap to the side where the pressure's coming from. You can see before the snap is even taken that 3, 92, and 11 are probably all coming, so you need to slide your blockers to the side where the blitzers are. Makes sense? Well, he didn't do that pre-snap. Bad job. And then when he identifies the hot blitzer, he tries to outrun him. You're not going to outrun him. And he tries this spin move, and then he fumbles because he's getting loose with the ball because he thinks that he's some kind of crazy athlete. He thinks he's his dad. And he thinks he can make a linebacker miss from a full sprint. When what he really should have done is right here, just flick the ball out to your running back, live to fight another day. Or, ideally, make the right read pre-snap and don't have a free blitzer. Again, this is a clean enough pocket. Flick that ball out to the wheel route at the top of your screen in gray. He's currently at the 45-yard line, and you're in business for a nice large gain. Instead, Shedeur just holds onto the ball. It takes a big hit that's not necessary, right? There's plenty of time here to either say, nothing's coming open, ditch it, it's second down, we don't need to take a sack here, or to throw the ball to the wheel. But he does neither. I mean, hell, he can even throw the ball back. You see the running back after that handoff, that fake handoff, he just kind of sits there for a screen with 3 offensive linemen. Sure, I think that it was a fake screen, but if you realize there's pressure like this and there's nobody over there on the running back, just throw it back to him anyway. No post-snap processing, no pocket management, no awareness of the down and distance, and now you've turned second and short. Or even if that play fails completely and you don't see the running back, you just throw the ball away, it's third and short. Now, 3rd and 15. Unconscionable. And again, with a running back and multiple blockers sitting there waiting. Another one. He loves this move. It's the top of his drop. There's a little bit of interior pressure. Now, he could slide. All he has to do is step up and to the right, and he's got a ton more time and a wide open receiver here at the 45-yard line, as you can see. But Shedeur can't see him because Shedeur has turned his back entirely to the field to run around like a chicken with his head cut off. Again, because he thinks he's this great athlete. He thinks he's Deion Sanders' son. But somebody might have to do a paternity test because this man is not an athlete. He cannot run. And then he stumbles, falls, and has to throw the ball away. So many missed opportunities because he's making bad decisions. Also, he doesn't understand how to step up or slide in the pocket, right? This is a pretty clean pocket. But if he takes a half step to his left or a little step up and to his left, he's got plenty more time to do this extended release we talked about earlier, where he tries to drive the ball. Instead, he gets hit. And because he's a tiny guy, we're talking 6 foot, like sub 200 pounds. We're talking makes Baker Mayfield look like a big man. This is a tiny quarterback. And when he gets bumped, he loses all accuracy and velocity. And remember, he doesn't have any velocity to begin with. So he cannot throw from a crowded pocket. He cannot manage a pocket to make sure it never gets crowded. And he cannot run away. Right? He's small, he's weak, and he doesn't know how to handle things, and he panics. Here's where that extended... I talked in the beginning of the video about that long windup that he uses when he has to throw the ball further than a few yards downfield. See how it comes way back and it bites him in the butt because he's got to get his whole body into the throw, right? He can't just throw it. He's got to... This is why it matters. It all goes back into the pocket presence. And like even this is my issue. This is why it's not salvageable to me. Even when Shedeur gets lucky and breaks a tackle and extends a play, like here, the defensive end just misses. He goes for the head. He completely misses. And as you can see, there's a receiver on a dig wide open on the logo, right? Wide open on the logo. And now that defender has missed, Shedeur has no pressure. Perfect pocket. You've got an open dig for a first down. You've got a streak that's wide open on the left. And you've got a running back totally uncovered right at about that 40-yard line marker. Shedeur doesn't throw to any of these 3 excellent options, all of which are going to get you at least a first down. He runs around, and he waits until there's nothing, and he throws the ball away. So even when he's not taking a bad sack, he's taking yardage and points off the board because he just can't make decisions. He panics. I forgot to put this play into the package, but look at how wide open Travis Hunter is at the top of the screen. It's one thing if you're going to zero in and focus on Travis Hunter to a fault most of the time, but if he's going to be this wide open on a streak and you're still not going to throw it to him because you're busy running around, what are we doing? Right? And like, yeah, there was some pressure, but this is part of playmaking. And maybe I should have put it with that portion rather than post-snap processing and pocket awareness. But right here, he's running and extending a play that he doesn't need to extend, and he even gets a block. And right here, the ball should absolutely be out. But he's not noticing Travis Hunter wide open, and he's too late to throw to this 82 that's dragging with him, right? Like if he throws this ball right now and he has an NFL arm, which he doesn't, but if he did, that's still a very completable first down ball. You know, not as good as the Heisman Trophy winner doing jumping jacks because he's not covered. Like literally doing jumping jacks turned around at the 35-yard line. This is not a far throw. This is a 20-yard throw for a first down. And he just. So I ask you, because it's the theme of this whole video, what does Shedeur do well? How does he help your team? The last categories we're going to cover are athleticism, starting with mobility. And I think that Shedeur Sanders is a below average quarterback athlete, right? And I mean, that doesn't mean that he's Mac Jones and he can't move, but it means he's certainly not a mobile quarterback. When he tries to run, he doesn't have any speed. It's easy for people to keep up with him. He makes a lot of bad runs. He's afraid to take hits because he plays at about 6'180". He's not the most fleet of foot. He can run around and juke out a defensive tackle, but like this is a lot of running to accomplish nothing. Finally, we've got playmaking. I give him a C minus for reasons we've kind of already been over. He's got that creative mentality, right? He's going to try some things and it's nice, but he doesn't have the ability to actually do the things he wants to do. Like he rolls out here and that's good because your corner shot is covered, but you have this curl and you waited too long on it. When you finally threw it, you didn't throw it accurately because you're not an accurate passer. it's there's just so much meat on these bones because the quarterback doesn't have the ability to do things, right? He's gotta throw his whole ass into this throw. And he's rolling left, but he's also coming forward, which makes it easier. He lets go at the 35. He puts his whole ass into this throw to get to the opposite 35. Only a 30-yard throw, only 20 yards down the field. And it's out of bounds because he's overthrowing it because he doesn't have that easy velocity in his bag. He loves doing these escape moves where he runs backwards, but then he does nothing with them. And even when he does successfully escape like this, far too often it ends up being a check down. He's not escaping and creating the big heartbreaking play that Mahomes has gotten us accustomed to, or Josh Allen, excites us with each week. It's rolling out, doing a weird escape move, risking a terrible sack so that you can check the ball down to a running back for 5 yards or throw a pick. I just don't see any upside. I really think that the Shedeur Sanders first round hype is all just a narrative driven fabrication. I don't really think anybody watched this kid play and thought that's a good quarterback. I think that it was really easy to fall into the narrative, right? Because we remember years ago when he commit to Jackson State, an HBCU, right? So like a D2 school, not typically where star recruits go. And he brought Travis Hunter, the number one recruit in the nation, who flipped from Florida State in his home state to Jackson State. That never happens. So it was a big narrative from the start. There was tons of publicity from the get-go. But even that was a little bit of a fabrication because Shedeur was never a big-time recruit. I'm looking right now. His prospect rating, he was a 3-star recruit with a 37th ranked quarterback grade. He was the 37th best quarterback in his draft class or recruiting class. And he was a 3-star recruit. Yes, he got an offer from Alabama, but his only real offer to be on the team as a scholarship player with a path to starting was Florida Atlantic or Cornell. Arizona State, Baylor, and Alabama showed interest, but never envisioned him being a starter, more of a preferred walk-on. This is not some pedigreed stud guy, but we remember him that way because he was in the headlines. And of course, Deion Sanders' son was good at manipulating the media headlines around him. And then he transfers to Colorado with all the hoopla, And, his dad and his best friend, Travis Hunter, the superstar, and they go to Colorado and they beat TCU, who we thought was going to be good because they won a bunch of games in 2022. But it turns out they actually suck. They didn't win like any other games the rest of the year. And then Colorado blew as the year went on. And in 2024, it looked like they kind of were going to put something together. And they like showed flashes of being a frisky, good team, but they were never that level. And when you've got the Heisman Trophy winner and an NFL coaching staff and all these transfer players, you should be better than just okay. If your quarterback is a stud, an NFL franchise guy. And Shedeur's just not. He's a 6 foot, 190, 180 pound quarterback who's not very athletic, has a weak arm, doesn't make great decisions, isn't that accurate. What is he good for? We just went through it. You can't argue he has a strong arm. At the very best, you could say it's okay enough. But even in his high school scouting report, 4th to 7th round pick reminds us of Jacoby Brissett, enough arm to make most throws. That's not a glowing scouting report. And usually these high school scouting reports talk about everybody like they're going to be Tom Brady mixed with Josh Allen mixed with Lamar Jackson. So not impressive. Never had a strong arm. Despite throwing a lot of short passes and setting records for accuracy because he had a completion percentage way up in the high 70s on little fucking screen passes and pop passes, we've shown he's not very accurate if you actually, A, take away all the throws that are basically just handoffs. Like a 2 foot throw that your grandma could make isn't really a throw. Shovel passes, not a throw. If you take all that out, he's average on accuracy despite throwing a ton of short passes and despite having 3 NFL caliber wide receivers, including the Heisman Trophy winner, to throw to. The sirens are coming because they can tell that Shedeur's a fraud. So, weak arm, not that accurate. Small guy, measured in at 6 foot at the combine and like 200 pounds. And people were surprised at that. He's more of like a 180, 190 pound guy, which is tiny. So he's not big. And he's not very fast. We've established he's not a runner. He can move a little bit, but he runs more like Sam Darnold runs, except without the being 6'4". Right, and you don't have to be that athletic to be an effective runner. Patrick Mahomes runs a slower 40-yard dash than a lot of offensive linemen. He ran a 4.8, 4.8 and change. But he's crafty, he's slippery, he wiggles around, he fakes like he's going to go out of bounds. You don't want to hit him because you're afraid of getting fined, and he gets an extra 5 yards. Shedeur doesn't have that. Shedeur doesn't have any of that. And finally, he's just not a playmaker. He's creative, but he can't execute the things he wants to do, right? He knows that, like, oh, I could do the bail move, the Russell Wilson run, turn around, left, come back, and suddenly my pocket's clean. But he's not actually fast enough to do it. And he's not recognizing things once he comes out of his evasive maneuvers, and he doesn't have the arm talent to throw the ball downfield when he's playmaking. So I once again ask you the thing I asked you at the very beginning of the video. What does Shedeur do well? Personally, I can't really justify taking him in the first 5 rounds. He's a backup and not a particularly good one because, again, he doesn't do anything well. There are very flawed quarterbacks in this draft, like, let's say, Quinn Ewers. Very flawed. But at least Quinn Ewers throws a pretty deep ball. At least Quinn Ewers has a much stronger arm than Shedeur, and maybe somewhere deep down there, in there, if he could fix his mechanics, he could find that 70-yard range that everybody used to talk about when he first transferred to Texas. Same with Jackson Dart. Yeah, Jackson Dart loves running when he shouldn't. But he's a better athlete than Shedeur, a bigger man than Shedeur. He's got a stronger arm than Shedeur. And so if I could just polish up his run tendencies and just make Jackson Dart stop running, there's a better quarterback in there somewhere. Hell, give me Jalen Milroe instead, because Jalen Milroe cannot throw for his life. But he's fast as hell. And if I could just figure out how to coach him a little bit to throw, he's already better than Shedeur. So I defy you. Hit me in the comments. Please. What am I missing? What does Shedeur Sanders do well that makes you think he could become a starting NFL quarterback? Not even a Hall of Famer or a Pro Bowler or a stud. Just like a guy who's good enough. I don't see it. All right. That's it for this video. Between this and Tyler Shugg, I've done the best and the worst. I'm going to start filling out the middle soon, hopefully with a Cam Ward video, because I actually think Cam Ward pretty good. But that's enough spoilers. I got film to grind. Asta.